Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad you could all join us this fine Thursday morning. Hope everyone is doing well today. So, for those who are new, my name is Mitch Kaniari, and I'm a trader with Afriforex. Want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, during these sessions, we as the Afriforex team, we analyze the markets, we identify what trading opportunities we'll be looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So, as usual, we do have the Afriforex team here. So, if you do have any questions or queries, the chat box is open, so feel free to ask whatever questions or queries you might have there, and we will be able to respond to you towards the end of the session, and I will look to address any question also asked there. So let's jump in. But remember, if you've not subscribed, please make sure you do, so at least you are notified when we do end up going live. So let's start off with our watch list. Now, in terms of our watch list, we have a slight change to what we were looking at yesterday. So you can see our focus yesterday was looking for selling opportunities on the US dollar as well as the euro, and we're looking to mix and match those two pairs with all the pairs on the sell side. Now you can see today there has been a slight change. We will still be looking for selling opportunities on the US dollar. However, the euro has moved to the buy side, and we will be looking at more selling opportunities for the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. So our focus is going to be on these three currency pairs, and we're going to mix and match them with the pairs on the buy side. So before we do focus on today's pairs, we did end up having a number of fundamentals yesterday. Ideally, the markets really went a bit crazy or parabolic yesterday during, there was a speech yesterday evening at around 11 o'clock. You can see Trump was talking. He did mention these markets are all over the place, and he did mention a number of tariffs that did end up bringing in a lot of volatility on the market. So we'll end up also having a look at that today. But we will end up expecting there could be some more movements on the charts based on the reaction to the tariffs that Trump did end up putting out. But you can be able to just do a quick Google search if you do want to end up reading more on that. But in terms of fundamentals, we do have a good number of fundamentals today. You can see we have some Swiss franc news. We have some euro news, or at least the euro session, at least the London session will be active. And we do have a lot more news during the US session. So today will probably be a very active day. So before we do focus on today's pairs, let's look at the pairs that we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. So we'll start off here with the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that John had pointed out, but you can clearly see when we're discussing this market early in the morning, the price was within this area where the sellers. So we needed one of two options, either a breach of this seller's area or the price actually giving us a pullback back towards a buyer's area for us to look for those buying opportunities. Now, nothing much happened during the whole day. You can see during the London session at 10 o'clock, nothing really much happened. We did end up getting a small push to the upside, but we kept on holding within the seller's area. But it was at 11 o'clock. Once the tariffs did come in, the markets really did move quite crazily. You can see how high the markets really did spike to the upside, and it did manage to come back down all the way to the main buyer's area. And we can still see a very nice probe then, the price attempting to go to the upside. But this would have been a bit difficult to end up grabbing. And unfortunately, these are pairs that could end up giving us issue today. And that's the reason why it is off our watch list. Similar situation with the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. But in this case, the buys did end up working out during the London session. You can clearly see the illustration John had pointed out. In the London market, remember, due to the daylight savings, the market timings have changed. So 10 o'clock is the London market. Right now at 9 o'clock, the Frankfurt market is open. So that's why you might find sometimes as we're having these sessions at 9 o'clock, we could find some movement on the markets, but we will still be focusing on 10 o'clock. But you can see the market did end up moving from 9 o'clock in the Frankfurt market, got a push to the upside, we got a slight pullback, and it was at 10 o'clock once the London market did open, the price did manage to continue going to the upside. Although this one would have been a bit difficult to get since we did not get the full pullback back towards this main support and resistance area. But you can see the same story that did end up happening once the Trump did end up coming in with the tariffs. You can see the big movements in the volatility that was happening in the market. The price attempted to go to the upside, came all the way back down towards this buyer's area that we did have. And you can see during the Asian session, the price is attempting to go to the upside. So the US dollar is quite weak. And most of you might be wondering why we're not still looking for buying opportunities on this pair. Remember, the New Zealand dollar is also showing us weakness, and this could end up giving us some issues. At the moment, the US dollar is showing the weakest, or at least is the weakest out of all of them. And that's the reason why you are seeing the prices going to the upside. But unfortunately, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. Now, the next pair we did have was the euro against the British pound. Similar situation here. Our bias was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the three areas that John had pointed out. Initially, the price was within the buyer's area. Now, we can see the price did end up attempting to come to the downside during the London market open, where you can see the price came down lower. We did get a small pullback, showing us the evidence that the price was attempting to hold to the downside, and this was at 3 o'clock. But unfortunately, you can see at exactly 3, the price was back within this area. And instead of holding or at least continuing to go to the downside, you can see the price managed to continue going up higher. You can clearly see the area that we did end up pointing out, the aggressive location. The price had a small reaction there later on during the US session, but similar situation at around 11 o'clock. You can see the huge volatility that did come out. Even if you didn't manage to grab a sell, most sales would have been stopped out within that location. But even though the price still didn't manage to come back down, back towards the main buyer's area. But unfortunately for us, there's a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. Now, next pair we did have was the euro against the Swiss franc. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Now, you can see the three areas that John had pointed out, but initially the price was within this particular seller's area. Wanted to see whether or not the price is actually going to give us some sort of probe and come down and hold below, as you can see based on this illustration right here. Unfortunately, that did not happen. The price actually came to the upside and was holding above. You can even see at around 3 o'clock during the US market open. You can see that's right there. The price did manage to continue going to the upside. So you can see once the price went up above this area, this pair did fall off our watch list, but you can clearly see the huge volatility that happened once Trump did mention about the tariffs. And you can clearly see the price did end up attempting to come down. But clearly, as you can see, this would have been a bit tricky to actually end up grabbing this trading opportunity. So unfortunately for us, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. Now, the next pair we did have was the euro against the Japanese yen. Now, during the London session, we did end up getting a selling opportunity coming in. You can see at 10 o'clock where the price was, we're within this area where the sellers, and you can see the price managed to continue coming to the downside throughout the London session. But we remember, as we point out, the market opening times at 3 o'clock, the price was back within the buyer's area. And you can see the price did manage to continue going to the upside. We came back to the aggressive area that we did end up wanting to see some sort of probe or price action signal. Price was quite choppy, but as you can see at 11 o'clock, the huge volatility that did come in, still managing to bring this price down lower. But this would have been quite tricky to end up grabbing even for us. So unfortunately, this is a pair, even though it did end up working out, this could be a pair that could give us issues today. And that's the reason why it is off our watch list. Now, last but not least, we did also end up having the euro against Canadian dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, we did want to look for selling opportunities, but you can clearly see we were within an area where there are buyers, and we always mention buy with buyers and sell with sellers. The fact that we're within an area where there are buyers and we're looking for sales, there was no trading opportunity just yet, either a breach to the downside, you can see based on this illustration, or a pullback. Now, the pullback did start coming in, and we wanted to see what kind of reaction we did end up getting within this particular seller's area, and the price was there at 3. But you can see no big boy sellers did end up showing up. In fact, the buyers are the ones that managed to show up, showing us evidence that the price had reached and was actually holding above this area. So at that point in time, there was no trading opportunity just yet. Wanted to see what happens at 4:30. The price was attempting to come up, but there was, since no sellers did end up showing up, there was no trading opportunity at that point in time. And you can see once the price broke to the upside, it did end up falling off our watch list, because you can clearly see the price did end up looking as if it was holding to the upside. Even though you can see after the Trump news, we can see the price really did come down back towards the main buyer's area, but you can see the type of reaction that we are getting. So unfortunately, even though this trade did work out, would have been a bit tricky to get, and we are not going to be focusing on this kind of pair today. So that's it for the pairs for review. You can see the huge movements that did end up happening yesterday at around 11 o'clock. So before we do end up focusing on the pairs that we're going to be looking at today, let's have a look at a few screenshots that we didn't manage to get. And then we'll come and focus on the pairs that we're going to be looking at. So we'll start off here with Alvin. Alvin, we did manage to grab some multiple buying opportunities on the euro against the US dollar. It seems that you took advantage of that US dollar weakness, even though the euro was also weak. But you can clearly see you did manage to grab multiple buying opportunities, did manage to take your profit all the way at the top right there. So very, very good trade, very good entries within this particular entry right here. So it was a bit of a chase trade, because you can clearly see, we always mention buy with buyers and sell with sellers. And the fact is, you can clearly see here, this was an area where sellers do usually react. You can see the first time and the second time. But you can see once we did get the price break in this area to the upside, technically speaking, this support and resistance area also still held, because you can see this was just a probe, even though you did end up getting a very nice buy within the buyer's area. You can see even after the price came to the upside, there was a pullback. giving us another potential entry. But still, very, very good job on this trade, Alvin. So very well done on that. And you did also look for a buying opportunity on the British pound against the US dollar. Funny enough, also I got a missed trade. It even ended up missing my buy limit just a bit before the price did end up taking off to the upside. So I do feel your pain here, Alvin, but you can't really see that's what ends up happening sometimes with the chart. Sometimes that's what we call the cost of precision, but still very good idea in terms of as long as the trade idea is there, that is what matters. You make sure you just keep on repeating the process each and every day and doing the exact same thing, but still very well done on this trade, Alvin. So also next, we did get George Chege. Did manage to grab a buying opportunity on gold. Very nice buy. As you can see the buy coming to the upside. You have already managed your trade with your stop loss already above your entry. The take profit is quite high because you can clearly see the area that we are at, or at least where the price is at the moment. You can see this is definitely an area where sellers have reacted from before. And you can see when the price came there the last time, you can see that type of reaction. So I do end up hoping when the price ended up approaching this area as well, you didn't end up giving some sort of trade management, either closing some of your position, but in terms of your stop loss, since you could not necessarily move your stop loss further than that, but still very, very good job on this trade, George Chege. Keep up the good work that you're doing. So also next we get Mark Ngori. Didn't manage to grab a very nice buying opportunity on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. You can see the price was to the downside, grab the buying opportunity right there at the bottom. The price really came up in your favor, and you can see you did end up closing your trade right there at the top. I think this was definitely after 11:30. So happy to see that your trade at least was still safe. Because we know once the tariffs did end up coming in, the spread also must have definitely increased quite a lot. So happy to see that the trade did end up surviving and did end up getting some good profits on this trade, Mark. So very, very well done, and keep up the great work that you're doing. So remember, guys, if you do manage to take any setups based on things that we do share, feel free to send them into us. Our contact details are in the video description below. So let's focus on today's pairs. So we'll start off with the US dollar pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the buy side. Then we'll move on to the Australian dollar, then the New Zealand dollar. Then we'll have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So starting off with the US dollar pairs, we'll have the British pound against the US dollar. So on this currency pair, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. You can see even the alert that we did end up having here. I think Alvin, this is a similar situation in terms of where I was looking for an entry, was just missed before the market did manage to continue going to the upside. You can see this was during the London session open at 10 o'clock. We got the price breaching this area to the upside. You can see we got a price breaching this area to the upside and holding above. That gave us confirmation. But if you realize this was at around 1 o'clock, and at that point in time, the market did not take off because there was no real big boy at that time. So at 3 o'clock, the price was within this area. It was around 4:30 or so, just after the New York Stock Exchange opened. That's when we did get the price breaching this area to the upside. And you can see a similar situation during the Asian session. Once we got the price holding to the upside, it was the Asian big boys that did manage to continue taking the price up higher. So today, the bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. Now, initially, we did have these three levels early in the morning, looking for the buys. So we did end up focusing on these three particular areas. And right now, the price does look as if it's attempting to break this area to the upside. And remember, right now, I've just mentioned attempting, not necessarily a confirmed breach yet, because remember, in order for a confirmation of a breach, we need to see the price actually coming up and holding above. If we do see that, then definitely we will be able to look for buying opportunities there. But there's a possibility that the price can come back in and holds inside. That ends up happening. This move to the upside would just be a probe, meaning this level is still holding. And at that point in time, since you're within an area where the sellers, hopefully we could end up getting the price coming down a bit lower before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. So in this situation, we wait to see. Hopefully it's either the price is going to come back, if it holds above, then we will be able to look for buying opportunities there. Alternatively, if it comes to the downside and holds below, then chances are we could be getting the price coming down a bit lower. We watch to see within this first support and resistance area for us to look for some potential buying opportunities within this particular area. We'll wait to see what ends up happening. Right now, as the pullback is coming in, we want to see whether or not we will actually get the price holding above. So hope the game plan is clear. We'll wait to see what ends up happening, but this one does look pretty good. But ideally, the main thing we'd want to see is a pullback. And looking for a buying opportunity all the way at the top there does add a lot of risk. So here we have the US dollar against Swiss franc. Yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. As you can see, these are the three areas. So let me just zoom out a bit. You can see this was the areas that we did end up having yesterday to look for those selling opportunities. And you can see the price was within the area where the sellers, this was during the London market open. You can see the price is holding within that area. We wanted to see signs of big boy sellers. I know we keep on mentioning that in terms of, do you even see signs that the sellers are actually there, the big boy sellers or buyers are within a certain area? So you can see as the buyers were coming to the upside, we did end up getting aggressive sellers coming down lower, showing us confirmation that the price was holding. And you can see at that point in time, the price did manage to continue going to the downside. So this trade worked out quite well. Did end up holding within this first support and resistance area, but you can see a similar situation during the Asian session. We got the price really breaking this area to the downside. So initially, while looking at these particular areas, because the price was within these areas earlier in the morning, we were discussing it, but it seems that the price is really taking off. This is just showing that the US dollar has a lot of weakness. You can see we did have this support and resistance area. Since the price has actually ended up holding within this location, and you can see the price coming down very aggressive. So in this situation, we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Since this price is running away, you can see we were within this huge range based on even the 4-hour time frame. Right now, we've just managed to reach this area to the downside. So even though you want to look for a selling opportunity, one thing about ranges is whenever a range is broken, whether or not to the upside or to the downside. So if it's broken to the upside, regardless of how far it goes, there's a high probability it will come back to that support and resistance area to actually go to the upside. Or similar situation, if it breaks to the downside, chances are it will pull back to that area before it actually continues. So that's possibly what's going to end up happening here. We'll possibly be waiting for the price back within that area for us to look for selling opportunities. So right now, there's nothing much for us to do. We are clearly bouncing within a certain area right there. Just this level. Do seem to be bouncing within a certain area right there. Now, the question is whether or not the price has actually hit that location before. So as you can see, when we end up going back in time, you can clearly see that level that I've just drawn right now seems to be a major support and resistance area, an area of resistance that did end up turning into support. So the fact that we're within an area of support right now, definitely wait for that pullback to come in. Do not start chasing the market in terms of the sells. Hopefully, we can end up getting this price coming in a bit higher, back within the support and resistance area for us to look for selling opportunities. So we will wait to see what ends up happening. Sometimes when the markets do end up moving quite aggressive, this is mainly because there's a lot of fear for the US dollars due to the fact that there are a lot of tariffs in play. So we'll move on to the next US dollar pair. So right here, we have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Our bias here yesterday was to look for selling opportunities. You can see where the price was earlier in the morning. Wanted to see whether or not we could get the price coming back in within the main seller's area. So let me just do it like this. Wanted to see whether or not we could end up getting price coming back within this particular seller's area. And also John had pointed out there was some sort of support and resistance area. This is an area where the sellers, where the price could potentially react from. But we also wanted to see whether or not the price could get back within this area. Now, during the London market open, the price did manage to start coming to the downside. Now, at that point in time, we wanted to see if this was actually a breach. So since the price managed to come down, if we got the price pulling back and holding below this area, then we could have actually looked for a sell. The fact that the price managed to come down, but instead of holding, it just came back up. There's a possibility that this right here was just approved, meaning the sellers hadn't really come in. And you can see the price managed to get back all the way to the extreme sellers area. And at 11 o'clock, a similar situation where the prices really did come down quite aggressive. So today, the bias is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. So our focus is going to be on these 3 areas of interest. You can clearly see right now we're within an area where there are buyers, so no selling opportunities just yet. We need 1 or 2 options. Either we'll end up getting this pullback coming in within this first support resistance area. We'll wait to see what kind of reaction we do end up getting here. If we do not see a reaction within this location, chances are we could end up getting the price coming back towards the red support and resistance area. A similar story, if we end up going up to a higher time frame, those who have done the one-on-one mentorship will know you can clearly see this is a major support and resistance area that was broken to the downside after this huge move down. You can see the market was within a small range there before the market managed to actually break this area to the downside. So you can see we've managed to break 2 levels, a major support and resistance area here, and we're back within a major bias area. But we do know most likely the prices can still potentially pull back within this main support and resistance area that was breached, and you could find the price coming to the downside. You need to remember right now, it's very obvious to everyone that this is a sell. So if you're looking for selling opportunities here, where are you actually going to put your stop losses? So we need to potentially incite a few people to look for buying opportunities So don't be surprised you find the price coming back within this main support and resistance area before we do find the price actually coming to the downside within that location. So hope the game plan is clear, at least on what we're looking at doing on the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Let's move on to the next US dollar pair. So right here, we have the US dollar against Canadian dollar. You can see our bias yesterday was to look for selling opportunities. Nothing much happened during the Asian session. Similar situation during the London session. The price was just ranging. During the US session, unfortunately, at least you can see within here, around 4:30 or so, in the New York Stock Exchange, we did get an attempt to come to the downside, but these buyers kept on holding. You can see the price managed to continue grinding to the upside, managed to get towards the extreme area during the news event that did end up coming in. But you can see the levels were still holding. You can see based on this area that we did miss that selling opportunity there. Once the price managed to come to the downside, you can see we still got a pullback coming back within that same support and resistance area that was broken. And you can see the price didn't manage to come to the downside. So whatever criteria you use to actually enter a trade, whether or not it's a pin bar, ideally it needs to be within certain locations. And as long as it lines up with the story, you definitely will be good on the trade. So today, buyers is still going to be looking for selling opportunities on the US dollar against Canadian dollar. So we've adjusted the level slightly. So we'll be focusing on these three major areas right now. So right now, we do seem we're attempting to break this area to the downside. It does seem very interesting. You can see the fact that the price attempted to break this area the first time, the second time. Right now, we do seem to be holding below. So there's potential that this price could actually be going to the downside. Remember, the market does end up sometimes moving at 9 o'clock, which is a Frankfurt market, and it has been open for the past 30 minutes. So we'll wait to see whether or not we are actually going to continue going to the downside, or whether or not we will actually end up getting some sort of pullback coming back in within this support and resistance area before we're able to look for selling opportunities. So right now, we're going to see what ends up happening. This pair has been ranging for quite a bit, has been quite choppy. As you can clearly see, the market has been within this particular area, not necessarily going to the upside or really going to the downside. We can see the fact that we're back in a major area right here. Let's wait to see what ends up happening. If we do end up breaking this area, the next major buyer's area does seem to be the bottom right there. So right now, let's wait to see what ends up happening, if this is an actual proper breach, or whether or not we'll actually get a bit more of a pullback before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. But definitely, we are clearly seeing the US dollar is showing a lot of. So the new, or at least the next Euro US dollar pair, the last US dollar pair that we do have is the Euro against the US dollar. Now, this kind of pair is a brand new entrant. Remember, both the Euro and the US dollar were both on the same side of our watch list yesterday. But today, our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities on this kind of pair. So these are the levels we had early in the morning. It seems that the market does seem to be attempting to take off to the upside. But remember, if this is a proper push to the upside, we need a pullback to come in and look for a buying opportunity within this buyer's area right here. So wait to see what ends up happening. Hopefully, we can end up getting this pullback coming in. Be aware, if this pullback comes in and it actually comes and holds below, remember, no trading opportunity just yet. Chances are we could be coming back within this main support and resistance area right here before we're able to continue looking for those buying opportunities on the euro against the US dollar. So I hope the game plan is clear, and at least what we're looking at doing on the US dollar pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match the US dollar with the pairs on all the with the pairs on the buy side. So right now we're going to move on to the Australian dollar pairs. So we'll start off here with the British pound against the Australian dollar. So most of these pairs are brand new entrants on our watch list, and our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see the huge volatility that did end up happening once Trump did end up mentioning about the tariffs. So the markets are quite crazy right now, but we'll still be focusing on these two areas. You can see right now we're in an area where the sellers. So most of you will know this is not the best place to look for your buying opportunities. So we'll hopefully see if we can end up getting the price coming back within this buyer's area for us to look for our buying opportunities. But remember, since even though we're within an area where the sellers, there's still the potential of the price actually breaking this area to the upside. And if we do get the price holding above, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on the British pound against the Australian dollar. So we'll focus on these three areas to look for those buying opportunities. Remember, the price can still come back down all the way till this main buyer's area before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. Can see even though the price has really come up, we have this support and resistance area that was just broken, but we do also have another major SNR. You can clearly see this area right here within the red support and resistance area. There's potential that this move right here will just approve, meaning this level was still holding. So the fact that the price does look as if it's broken to the upside there's still the potential that the price can come back down all the way till this red support and resistance area. But remember, we'll mainly focus on the story in terms of reading how the sellers are going to come back in and what kind of reaction we do end up getting within one of the market opening times. So remember, that's 9. So the times have changed at least for the London session. So that's 9, 10, 3, and 4:30. So do watch out for those particular times. So moving on to the next Australian dollar pair, we do have the Australian dollar against Swiss franc. Brand new entry in our watch list, and our bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So we'll be focusing on these 3 areas. One thing you will realize that right now we're all within an area where they're biased, so definitely no selling opportunities for us just yet. So one of 2 options needs to end up happening. I think most of you guys will know what the game plan is usually like. Either a pullback coming in, especially since we're within an area where they're biased, because right now we do not know whether or not this price has actually breached this area to the downside. You can see it's attempted to come down, but if we do end up getting the price breaching and actually giving us a proper pullback and holding below, then we should be able to actually continue looking for selling opportunities. But this would not necessarily be the safest thing to do right now. Remember, and especially when you end up going to a higher time frame, you can clearly see we're within an area where they're biased. And the last time, look at what kind of reaction we did end up getting. So hopefully we can get the price breaking and holding below this area. We should definitely be continuing to go to the downside, but there's still the possibility that this bias could end up giving us a small pullback back within this major support and resistance area before we're able to look for those selling opportunities to come in. So hope the game plan is clear, at least on what we're looking at doing on the Australian dollar against Swiss franc as we move on to the next Australian dollar pair. So right here, we have the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Brand new entry on our watch list, and our bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So our focus is going to be on these 3 areas to look for these potential selling opportunities. Now, based on the fact that the way the markets move quite aggressively, I know most people must be wondering also why are we not maybe looking for a sell at the top there. If you do end up noting how many pips the markets really did move, you will note that it did end up moving quite many pips. You can clearly see this is around 300 pips the market ended up moving. Just that move in the least active time on the charts. Usually before the Asian session opens, that's the time they usually call the dead hours in the market. But that seems to be when the markets were really active. So overall, we will still be looking for sales. Right now, based on the fact that within this bias area, let's hope to see we can end up getting this pullback coming in, potentially within this support and resistance area for us to look for those selling opportunities. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. You can see a major support and resistance area that was broken to the downside. So there's potential. This would be the best place to look for your selling opportunities on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So hope the game plan is clear on what we're looking at doing on AUD yen as we move on to the next Australian dollar pair we do have. So this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. And here, our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. You can clearly see the weakness that did end up coming in on the Australian dollar pairs and how the buyers do seem to be struggling. So overall, we definitely want to be looking for selling opportunities. So we'll focus on these 3 areas for the potential sells. Right now, we're back within an area of support and resistance area, but there's no opportunity to sell just yet. One thing you could always do is follow the story of where the buyers are pushing. You can see the buyers initially pushed from down there. The next push seems to be within there, where the market managed to go to the upside. So even though the price has come down, you can see as long as we're holding above that area, the buyers are pushing up. So the fact that the buyers are pushing within that area, you can be able to follow the story of the buyers and potentially wait at what point in time are those buyers actually going to be taken out. So if you continue finding, or at least continuing with the story, the price goes up higher. Let's say, for example, the buyers are there and the price manages. So let's say, for example, the buyers push up there. If the price is able to break this area to the downside, there could be a potential selling opportunity there as well. So that's one way you can be able to try and figure out at what point are the buyers going to die out, whether or not it's this first support and resistance area right here, whether or not we get some sort of global price action signal to come down, or it could end up coming back all the way till the main sellers area right there at the top before we're able to look for selling opportunity. Now, we have identified a level right here in the middle as well. So even though we're looking for potential selling opportunities within these 2 main areas, especially if I do end up going up to the 1 hour time frame, you can see this area where we have this blue support and resistance area does seem to be a major support and resistance area. You can see how many times this price is actually holding. So there's potential that the fact that the price has broken this area to the downside, you can see we're back within this first support and resistance area. If the sellers do not react within here, they could end up coming back towards the blue SNR. So do end up watching for that level. But for right now, definitely still be looking for those selling opportunities. We'll just wait at what point in time these buyers are going to die out for us to look for those sells. So hope the game plan is clear on the Australian dollar against Canadian dollar as we move on to the next and last Australian dollar pair. So right here we have the euro against the Australian dollar. Now, yesterday our bias here was to actually look for selling opportunities. We can see the three areas that John had pointed out to look for those potential selling opportunities. But initially the price was within a buyer's area. So at that point in time, there was no selling opportunity for us just yet. But you can see the price managed to continue going to the upside. It was holding there throughout the London session. At 3 o'clock during the US session, we started getting a pullback, or at least what we're hoping was a pullback. Wanted to see what kind of reaction we got within the first support and resistance area. There was no sign of big boy sellers. Remember, even as based on the story that I've just pointed out, if you're following the story of the buyer, remember, so if we're looking at the way the buyers are coming up, and you're saying, okay, waiting for at what point in time the buyer is going to be taken out. You can clearly see no seller came in. The buyer actually continued running throughout the upside. Even here, if you probably thought that the price managed to get towards the seller's area and were potentially coming to the downside, you can clearly see. But I do ask if this was actually a breach or a probe. I think most of you right now should be able to answer. Since the price came down but never held below, this ends up being a probe, meaning that blue support resistance area still held. Meaning if the buyers were still holding, there was no opportunity that the price, or at least the sellers, did end up giving us to actually come to the downside. You can see the buyers did manage to continue going all the way higher and higher and higher. So do end up watching for such. So even though we're looking for the sells, there was no real opportunity for us to end up looking for any selling opportunities just yet. You can see during the Asian session, the price did reach to the upside. But due to the fact that both the euro and the Australian dollar have both switched biases, we can be able to look for this trading opportunity, or at least a trade on this kind of pair, and looking for buying opportunities here. Now, you have noticed within all these Australian dollar pairs, they do seem to be within the area, or at least the extreme areas. So we need one of two things to happen. Either let's see if we can end up getting this pullback coming in. Hopefully, we can end up getting within this first support and resistance area for us to look for those buying opportunities. Or price can come all the way to this main red support and resistance area. But for right now, we will not look for any trading opportunity just yet, because since we are looking for the buys and we're within an area where the sellers, there's nothing for us to do. So one of these two options needs to end up happening. One of these two options needs to end up happening. Either the price comes back in the support and resistance area for us to look for buys, or we do end up getting a pullback coming. So hope that's clear, at least on what the game plan is on the Australian dollar pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched all the US dollar and the Australian dollar pairs with the pairs on the buy side. So right now we're going to move on to the next kinds of pairs, which are the New Zealand dollar pairs, before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So we'll start off here with the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. Now, yesterday, our bias here, or at least we did not necessarily have this yesterday, so since it's the prime intention on our watch list, our bias here today is going to be looking for buying opportunities. So we have identified three areas of interest where the buys could potentially work out from. You can see this price has been coming to the downside, and the market really did end up reacting quite aggressive. Similar situation at around 11 o'clock. You can see the strength of the British pound as well as the weakness of the New Zealand dollar. It's one of the two. So right now, we do seem to be getting a pullback, especially if you compare the way the buyers are coming up in terms of the way sellers are coming down. You can clearly see the sellers are much weaker than the buyers, which is a good thing for us. So let's wait to see how far this pullback is going to come back in. We do see the price giving us some sort of probe, the price action signal within this first support and resistance area. We'll definitely be looking for buying opportunities there. Remember, you can be able to just follow the story, watch out for the sellers. You can see if you are looking for for example, buying opportunities, and you're watching to see at what point in time the sellers are going to die out. You can see the sellers push from there. They've not been taken out. They have managed to push down again. So the sellers are still there. Right now, if they're making a new low, you can be able to follow the story of the sellers. So it's wait and wait. Once they are able to be taken out, once you see the price breaking to the upside, you could easily find a potential trade. So if the price manages to go up, you could find the price pulling back towards that area to look for those buying opportunities. These are just small concepts that we do end up teaching within the AMP course, within all our educational courses. So if you are interested in knowing a bit more, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are in the video description, as well as you can be able to visit our website, which should also be in the video description, but Afriforex.com. So let's move on to the next New Zealand dollar pair right here. We have the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc, brand new entry on our watch list here, and our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. You can see the price really did come down aggressively at 11 o'clock yesterday. And today, the bias is definitely still going to be looking for selling opportunities. We have approached an area where there are buyers, so definitely no selling opportunity than an area where there are buyers. We'll wait to see whether or not we can end up getting some sort of pullback coming in. We'll wait to see whether or not this first area will end up giving us some sort of reaction. It doesn't look likely based on the fact that you can see when the price came down, the price didn't end up giving us a pullback within that area, but look at the way the sellers are pushing to the downside. That's not necessarily the strong seller we want. So there's a possibility the price might get a bit higher than this particular price before we're able to look for selling opportunities. So don't be surprised if you do find the market actually giving you some sort of probe where it looks as if it's going to the upside, but it comes back in and falls below. So do watch out for certain situations, but obviously we will be looking for selling opportunities, and especially if it lines up within the market opening times. So hope the game plan is clear, at least on what we're looking at doing on the New Zealand dollar against Swiss franc. As we move on to the next New Zealand dollar pair, which is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. In this kind of pair, our bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So our focus is going to be on these three areas of interest to look for those sells. Right now, you can see a similar story with the New Zealand dollar against Swiss franc, but within an area where the bias, even though the price came down aggressive, we need a pullback. So right now, as the price is coming up, this is definitely a good sign for us. Wait to see what kind of reaction we do end up getting within this first support and resistance area. If we don't see any reaction here, we'll be watching to see the price can still come back all the way to the red support and resistance area. A certain concept we do teach within the AMP course and the one-on-one course that we do end up showing exactly what entries that you can be able to take. So there's a high probability the price can end up coming back towards this main seller's area right here and giving us some sort of reaction. But we will be waiting to see what ends up happening on the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So hope that is clear on the New Zealand dollar against the yen as we move on to the next New Zealand dollar pair. So right here, we have the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. Now here, our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. You can see a brand new entry in our watch list and how aggressive the market did manage to come to the downside. But you can see this price is actually giving us a pullback and it's coming in quite aggressively, which is okay. The higher, the better. Because remember, most people who are looking for selling opportunities, the price is coming down, everyone was jumping in on sell. So even as the price is coming up a bit, everyone is still jumping in on sales, not necessarily realizing that the price could end up coming back all the way to this red SNR. So right here, wait to see. Either this price is going to come back within this seller's area before we're able to look for those selling opportunities, or we could easily find that the price ends up managing to come to the downside. We can see the price actually holding below. Then at that point in time, we will be looking for selling opportunities. You can be able to use correlation because you can see a number of these pairs are very much correlated, but we will wait to see. If you see one reaction on one pair, you can end up having a look at the other pairs to see some potential trading opportunities there. So moving on to the next and last currency pair that we do have. Right here, we have the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Now, this pair, we did end up actually having it yesterday, but we were looking for selling opportunities. Because remember, both the euro and the New Zealand dollar were both on opposite sides. So initially, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. Now, the price did look as if it was attempting to run away to the downside. You can see we're within the area where the bias, the price started coming down lower, which was a good sign for us. And this was during the London session. You can see at exactly 10 o'clock. That's when the price did get the energy to push to the downside. But it's a similar situation at 3 o'clock. That's when the market actually started turning, pushing to the upside. And the price was holding above this particular area. You can tell you see that was at exactly 430. So even though we did end up having this support and resistance area, once the price came down, we did not get a proper hold below. In fact, the price came back up and held above. That would not be a good sign to look for selling opportunities. And you can see the price did manage to continue going up higher and higher. Wanted to see what kind of reaction we did end up getting within this support and resistance area. Unfortunately, the price kept on actually holding to the upside. You can see the level that we had was here. Once the price broke to the upside, it actually kept on holding above. And during the Asian session, it really went off and really fell off our watch list. But the good thing is today, our biases have switched and we will be looking for buying opportunities on this kind of pair. You can see the three areas that we have identified where the buys could potentially work out from. Right now, we're within an area where the sellers, so definitely no buying opportunity just yet. We're going to see one or two options. Either the pullback will end up coming in for us to look for those buying opportunities. So either this pullback is going to come back in a bit lower for us to look for the buys right there, or we could end up getting this price coming to the upside. Can clearly see this at no point in time has actually the buyer given up. Can see every time the buyer is pushing to the upside, the buyer pushed up from there. Even within here, there were a number of probes, but even right now, the buyer seems to be pushing from there and has not actually been broken. So no pullback has actually started yet. We only get a pullback when we actually start getting those lower lows and lower highs coming in. But since that's the case, there's still a possibility that the price could end up giving, or at least the sellers could still give up. the price could end up breaking this area to the upside, holding above for us to continue looking for those buying opportunities. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So you can see we have mixed and matched all the currency pairs. You can see with the pairs on the buy side. So right now we're going to have a look at the indices, then move on to gold and silver. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So on the NASDAQ, you can see a similar story where the markets really did move quite aggressive. But overall, yesterday our bias was to look for selling opportunities, which is still the same situation today. You can see the areas that we had pointed out to look for the sells. They are pretty much similar to today's, but I'll end up explaining it slightly. So you can see early in the morning, the price did manage to break this area at the downside and that ended up attempting to come down lower, which was a good sign. But similar situation around 4:30 during the New York Stock Exchange, the price really just went to the upside quite aggressively, managed to get all the way to the main seller's area. And you can see at 11 o'clock, the price managed to get towards the main seller's area that we did end up having. This was based on this area on the 1 hour time frame. So you can see we did point out as the price came down, this was just a pullback, managed to get towards this main seller's area before the price really did come down very, very aggressive. So today, the bias is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. Now, the reason why the levels have not yet been adjusted was mainly due to the fact that this area at the bottom, just pointed out, this area that we do end up having down here, we had not confirmed that that has actually been breached. We've seen many times that the price is holding within this area. You can see the price has come down and continued going back up. So we wanted to see if this was actually a proper breach. If the price actually came in, if it actually ended up coming back in and holding above, then we'd be potentially looking for our selling opportunities within the top area right there. But if it's an actual breach, then we want to see, and this is a good sign the way the buyers are coming in. So hopefully we can end up getting the price giving us some sort of probe, showing us evidence and confirmation that this support and resistance area has been breached. And if it has, then we should be able to look for selling opportunities, or at least be able to continue looking for sells, but do make sure you manage your trade within this blue support and resistance area. That is the most recent low. So there's a potential that these buyers could end up also giving you some issues. So do end up watching out for that. But for right now, it's definitely on the pullback phase. It's very obvious to everyone that it's a sell. So very many people might be looking at this and start jumping in on sell. Remember, do not be incited. Follow the story of the buyers or wait for signs that the big boy sellers are actually coming back in before you're able to look for your selling opportunity. So hope that's clear on the NASDAQ as we move on to the next indice that we do have, which is the Dow Jones. Similar correlation, as you can see, early in the morning, the price started coming to the downside, attempting to come down at 4:30. Did end up reacting within this buyer's area that John had also pointed out that seemed to be within a buyer's area that we need to watch out for that. The buyers did end up reacting, coming back towards the main seller's area. You can see if we did get the price breaching and holding above this red SNR, then ideally we would have actually started looking for buying opportunities. But you can see how many times this market ended up probing, giving us one probe there. Sorry, apologies for that. Giving us one probe right here, and you can see another big probe right there before the market ended up coming to the downside. So the level still ended up holding quite aggressive, although it might have been a bit tricky to get, even though you did end up grabbing a selling opportunity within here or even here. Most people would have had their stop losses above here. Anything above this area, you can clearly see this definitely going to stop people out, or at least went to grab a lot of liquidity before the price did manage to continue going to the downside. So today, the bias is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. The areas are still pretty much the same based on the fact that when we want to see a breach of a level, we need the price actually going away from that level and holding. So you can see right now, the price has not actually broken and taken off from this particular support and resistance area. So we'll be still waiting to see whether or not either one will end up getting this pullback coming in. Could react in this blue support and resistance area, but obviously it would be better if it does end up going up higher. But remember, you need to be flexible in trading. It's not, it has to be this or this. You need to focus and see at this point in time, do you see some sort of reaction? If not, then you wait for the next level within here. And that's why we always point out these levels and the timings. The market openings does end up giving you a bit of confluence. If you find the price within a certain area and it lines up within the time, it increases your probability of you taking that trade. So do watch out for that. Wait to see right now if the price is actually able to hold to the downside. You can see how many times this market has actually held within this area. You can see right now it's either within that location or you can even end up putting these buyers right here. Because you can clearly see the buyers have reacted for multiple times within this particular area, even the last time. So even right now as the price is there, don't necessarily think that this price is actually going to go to the downside. In fact, what I think I'll do, I'll just adjust the level slightly, because if we do want to be safe, I think that would be a much better area. So once we do end up getting this price reaching this area to the downside, and we do get a proper hold below, then we should be able to look for selling opportunities then. But for right now, since we're within an area where the buyers, we will be waiting to see whether, and hopefully we can end up getting a pullback coming in. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next pair that we do have. So right here we have silver. Now, yesterday on silver, we were actually looking for buying opportunities, and you can see the 3 areas that I had pointed out. Now, we'll put a blue SNR just based on where we had the red SNR yesterday. So yesterday, since we were looking for buying opportunities here, you can see we did end up getting a very nice probe during the London session. Price probe right there, held above. There was a very nice buy that did end up coming in all the way to this main seller area. But you can see these sellers did end up reacting, coming back down. Price came back within the same buyer's area. Similar situation during the US session, gave us another buying opportunity. So you can see the market gave us multiple buying opportunities as the market was ranging. In fact, gave us during the London session, during the US session, and just before the Asian session did end up opening. Although this one would have been a bit difficult to get. This was around 9 or 10 o'clock. But you can see after that, price managed to get towards the main seller's area before it really did end up dropping to the downside based on the tariffs that were pointed out. So once it did end up breaking this area to the downside and held below, in fact, if we do end up looking at this area, just to quickly end up showing that sometimes probes can end up being quite big and you need to get some proper confirmation. You can see the first time the price came down, if you ask yourself, did the price come in and hold below that area? It did not, meaning that was actually just a probe. Similar situation when the price came down, it came straight back up, another probe. But once the price was able to come down, you can see we got the confirmation price was holding below that area. That confirmed that now it was a seller's market. And we can see from then on, that's when the price actually did end up taking off to the downside. So overall, once that did end up happening, our buyers did switch. We would be able to start looking for selling opportunities on this pair. So we have identified 3 areas of interest to look for sells. Right now, the prices do seem to be attempting to run away, but we had identified a major buyer's area here. If we are getting a proper breach and a hold below, then potentially we could end up actually continue looking for selling opportunities here. Wait to see what ends up happening, get some sort of probe or price action signal. We should be able to look for selling opportunities. I do end up going up to a higher time frame just to be able to note where the next problem area could potentially be. You can see a major area of buyers which have reacted from this particular area before. So you can see if the price actually falls below this area, chances are we could be coming down a bit lower. But be aware if the price actually comes back in. So there's potential that this price can come back in and actually hold through the upside. If we do end up seeing that, chances are we'll be coming back a bit higher up for us to look for selling opportunities within this particular support and resistance area. It is a major level that was breached, and there's potential that the price can pull back towards that location. So hope the game plan is clear, at least on what we're looking at on silver, as we move on to the next pair that we do have, which is gold. Now, gold still seems to be going up higher. And I know most people must be wondering, why is gold and silver moving in opposite directions? Now, you need to remember, right now, based on how the economy is, or at least how the world is going on, with Trump in office, there's a lot of uncertainty with the US in terms of what is being done, the tariffs. He could end up just mentioning any random thing tomorrow and will end up affecting the market. So there's a lot of fear based on the US. So due to that fact, that's the reason why you're finding a lot of the US dollar is being sold, and at least the US dollar is showing weakness based on the fact that people are trying to get rid of their dollars. But at the same time, they want a safe haven. So the clearly safe haven is gold, and that's the reason why you are still finding the price of gold going to the upside just based on that uncertainty. So yesterday, our buyers here was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today. You can see the price was just within our range, just bouncing between these levels the whole time. Now, initially during the London session, we did get the price coming up higher. I wanted to see the price holding above this area, which it ended up doing, although the price was quite choppy during the Asian session. Sorry, during the New York Stock Exchange. Sorry, once Trump did end up mentioning his tariffs, can see the price still managed to come all the way back towards the main buyer's area. So even if you were looking for a buying opportunity, the price was still holding above here. This being gold, this would have been a bit many pips, I think over almost 1,000 pips before you're able to end up looking for the buy or having a stop loss, which would not necessarily make sense. So this one would have been a bit tricky to get, but the price still did manage to go to the upside. So today, the buyers is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. So we have identified these 3 areas for the buyers are going to be working out, or at least the areas will be looking for those buying opportunities. So right now, as the prices come to the upside, there's potential. But this price, if it does end up giving us some sort of pullback within this area, because you can see the sellers are coming down, hopefully we can end up getting the price holding above this area for us to continue looking for buying opportunities. Potentially, the price can still come up higher. If it ends up coming up and holding above this area, then also at that point in time, we should be able to look for buys. But be aware, the red support and resistance area is the line in the sand for us. So if the price breaks and holds below this red support and resistance area, our bias will switch, and instead of looking for buying opportunities, we will actually start looking for selling opportunities there. So do watch out for that, but overall, the game plan is still to look for buying opportunities today. So I hope that's clear on all the kinds of pairs. As you can see, we've mix and match all the pairs on the sell side with the pairs on the buy side, including the indices as well as gold and silver. In terms of fundamentals, we do have quite a bit of fundamentals. You can see we have some Swiss franc news that did end up coming out showing some weakness. We'll end up having a look at it on the charts, or at least seeing what kind of reaction we'll end up getting at 10 o'clock once the London market does end up opening. But you can see we also have a lot more fundamentals, some PMIs during the London session for the euro. We have some British pound news, also similar situation, some PMIs. And this being a Thursday, remember on Thursdays during the US session, we have jobless claims. So we do end up expecting some good volatility as well during the US session. So hope that's clear. And let me see if I can address any questions. So happy to see you here, Lyle. And you're saying indices will rally back up, possibly breaking yesterday's high. The tariffs were lenient contrary to market expectations, 15 to 20%, plus having already cleared March's low, buys are ideal. It's potentially true, but even when you're talking about the expectations of the 15 to 20, it also depends on where. Because I know there are some countries, I think, is it China? You can't be able to look at all the tariffs, I think, that were mentioned. You can't really see what it is that they are trying to do. So I know for China or in Vietnam, there were a number of places that I think China had gone up all the way to 60%. There are certain industries in terms of the motor vehicle industries, technology. So there are certain things that will end up affecting. So even though they could be a push to the upside, you don't know necessarily because it's affecting the major industries within the US economy. Then that could end up bringing, we don't necessarily know what long-term effects that would have. So still a possibility, but we'll wait to also see what ends up happening. Because remember, I think also John had pointed out yesterday, with the indices were very technical of them. So we usually just follow the story in terms of where the buyers and sellers are. We can clearly see, even though the market looked as if it was going to rally to the upside yesterday, as long as we follow a concept that we do end up calling zones. So we do end up teaching this within the masterclass course, as well as the AMP course, where you can clearly see, as long as we're holding below this certain area, we will be looking for sales. I know we have heard us mention that a lot of times, because for us, we are fully aware that this is the seller who is responsible for bringing this price down. So anything in between this, as long as we've not either broken here or here, we are still within a seller's market. And you can see even the way the buyers managed to come up, even though the price came all the way there, as long as we're within this area where the sellers, you can see the kind of reaction that we end up getting. So that's the reason why we are very technical on that. Only once we do end up seeing the price breaking and holding above the red SNR, that's when we'll start looking for buying opportunities. But if you end up also looking at correlation within other indices as well, not necessarily only the US indices, the European indices, the German, the DAX, all of those, you should be able to see some sort of correlation as well on them, right? But thanks so much for your comments, Lyle. I hope to see more of them, and we'll end up waiting to see what ends up happening on these indices as well. So I'm not seeing any more questions, which is okay. The markets are ending up opening. It is around 10 o'clock. Although I'm seeing Mark Peter is saying, looking at technicals on a higher time frame, the buys on indices might just be a pullback. It's true. But, you know, as long as, because I know, Mark, you also like trading the indices. I know you've been focusing on them a lot. So it's potential, like especially when you end up looking at maybe the higher time frame, the prices are coming down because they have been going up for quite a bit. Potentially, it could be something similar to this that ended up happening, but it's a similar story. You can see, even if you were looking at this big push to the upside, for us, we would know that the buyer zone is there. So as long as the price managed to go all the way up, so when the price came down, as long as we're still within that buyer zone, we are still looking for buys. So even though you can see a huge probe that came in, the price came back in, still within that area, and it's still for a buy. So we do end up focusing on such, but we'll end up seeing So I'm seeing Lyle, you're saying for the sell-off was uncertainty. That's no longer the case. Notorious 15 last minute sell-offs. It could potentially. We'll wait to see. At least this is a good discussion. We'll wait to see what ends up happening tomorrow. We'll have a look at the indices as well, and we'll see what kind of reaction we do end up getting. So thanks for the comments, at least on that feedback there as well, Mark and Leo. Lyle, we really do appreciate it. So I guess that's it. And oh yeah, one thing, yeah, good. Thanks for mentioning that as well. We do end up having a lot of volatility. The non-farm payroll is also going to be tomorrow. So even though we have a lot of high impact news today, tomorrow we do end up expecting also a lot of volatility. Being the first of Friday of the month, the non-farm payroll will end up expecting, at least we will see a lot of volatility. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. That could be the trigger, because ideally it's major news events that do end up triggering the markets to move in certain directions, right? So even Bungie blogs are saying Trump signing of tariffs has caused volatility. Yeah, that's what we had pointed out. You can be able to even just, there's a number of news events just talking about Trump and what has happened with the tariffs. There's a whole lot. So even I will be ending up going to go through a number of this information later on today. I'm seeing Margaret Ngune saying thank you. Karibu sana. So once again, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Happy to see at least the chat has been quite active. Really do appreciate it. And at least let's keep it like that more and more. So remember, guys, if you do want any setup or at least any more information, education, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are in the video description. If you want more education, we are educators as well. So you can end up getting more information on our website, www.afriforex.com, or you can directly reach out to us. You can end up calling us or sending us a WhatsApp, and we'll see how we can help you guys. So again, hope to see you guys tomorrow. Have a happy trading day. God bless. Cheers, guys, and bye for now.